Hello, thank you so much for your interest in the Cake Ninja pricing spreadsheet. I'd like to just start you off here on the instructions page. You can see that every page has its own little instruction sheet and all the information that you need for the tutorials that are available and how to reach me if you have any questions or problems, because I do all my own customer service personally. So there's that. Then the setup page is just the step-by-step page is just a step-by-step for the first few times you use it of how to price a cake or a job. The setup page, I'm going to go really quickly because there's a lot here I want to cover, is just where you're going to put your personal information in, and as you go through that, that'll make a lot more sense. The costing master is the workhorse. This is where you're going to cost every single cake, and this is where all the information is going to be, so that if you ever have a question about the name of the cake, when it's due, how many we're supposed to serve, well, after you talk to the person, this is where you go. Then you're going to put everything in all these little squares that are yellow. It will tell you, once you've entered everything, what the cake cost you, and then what you quoted, what your profit margin is going to be, what your profit is going to be, and how much that is per serving. That will then calculate how much you're going to charge for the cake and cupcake, any tax, any delivery, and then give you a total quote. So there's a whole tutorial on this page that I'd like you to watch if you're interested, but this is the page where all the information lands so that you always know what's going on with every order. The baking calculator is the coolest thing. This is where if you want to know, okay, I need to serve 35 people. Okay, let me start back here at 0 with everything. All right, so you want to serve 35 people. Okay, so let's see, for a 3-layer cake, an 8 is going to serve 23. Okay, so maybe you want to do a 4 or maybe a 6 2-layer. See if that's gonna. Okay, 23 and 8, that's about 30. Okay, it's 31, that's about as close as you're going to get. And this is going to tell you how much batter you need, how much filling you need, how much frosting you need for a full frost, or if it's a naked, how much frosting you need for that. If you want to add cupcakes, you can do that. So let's add 12 cupcakes. That's going to tell you that you're going to need this much more batter and this much more frosting. And then when you say, okay, I'm going to go make this cake, how much do I put in each pan? It's going to tell you here, this is a 2-layer pan, and this is the 3-layer cake, so it's going to tell you that. So that's a really cool thing. I use this all the time. I have this open when I'm baking my cakes because I want to know exactly how much batter I need, how much I have, how much goes into each pan, and how much I need in terms of filling and frosting. That way I never make too much and I never make too little. It's very efficient and you're going to save money because you're not going to have any waste. All right, the next thing is the order tracker. This is where you're going to put all the summary of the order name, what you've quoted them, when it's due, the due on the date and the time, where it's going to be delivered to. You're going to have all the information summarized here for the brides or the main cake order, for the grooms, and for the cupcakes, whether or not delivery is included, and whether or not they've paid. Now, once you put the 100, if you put 100 here under cake quote, and then you put 100 here that they've paid, then this cake quote will turn white, because it's telling you it's all paid up and you don't have to worry about collecting any more money. Okay, on the individual recipe costs, this is where I have listed all the ingredients at all the prices I get them at. Anything that's yellow, you will edit yourself. So you're going to say, okay, for my flour, I get it for $3.49. So you'll put $3.49 there, and you'll put how many grams of flour are in there. And as you see, everything that has a little black triangle here has a little, when you hover over it, has a little note that will come up that will help you make a decision on what has to go in that square. There's a quick converter up here if you have to convert from pounds to grams or kilograms to grams, whatever, but everything is based on grams, so you're going to need to have a kitchen scale and base everything on grams. I promise you that you will like it once you get used to it. So up here you'll put the name of each recipe, the amount it makes in grams, and you can use cups, but you're eventually going to have to convert everything to grams. So you can put cups in there, but later on you're not going to need it. It will, once you've got all your ingredients in here, you're going to see the price of the recipe come up here, and there are 100 slots here, so you can have at least 100 recipes, a maximum of 100 recipes in here. So all of your recipes will show up on your costing master, so that you don't have to go back and forth between tabs. You'll be able to just see it right in the costing master, how much each recipe costs and how much it makes. This is just where you're going to enter it. Okay, so if you want to, as you're buying your ingredients, decide, okay, if you have 3 or 4 places that you go to Smith's, you go to Kroger's, you go to Amazon, and you want to find out, well, where is the best place for me to buy in terms of price for each of these items? So the ones that are listed here are the ones that you've put in on the sheet I just showed you. But let's say that you get your flour at, you saw another store that had flour and you thought it might be a better price. So what you would do is you would go up here and say, okay, for the price you put in, let me just get that a little closer. You're going to put the price in, put the number of grams in here, and it'll tell you per gram what that cost is, and you're just going to put it right here. So let's say that you got it for 0.0003 per gram. And did you notice that this turned peach? So that when that turns peach, that tells you that that's cheaper. And if you put it in 3 or 4 different vendors, whichever one is peach is the one that's the cheapest of all those vendors. So that gives you a quick visual and handy way to find and keep track of the vendors that are the very cheapest for you. You can do the very same thing for your supports, for your cake boards and all that. If you find it at another vendor that's a little cheaper, this is a way to keep track of it, because with all these ingredients, we need to keep track of every penny and where we're getting the best prices. The next thing you can do is, if you make a cake over and over and over again and you don't want to keep repricing it and making sure that it's the same, go ahead and put it in here, put in all the details, and then you have your retail price and you don't have to keep pricing that same cake over and again. I don't use that this often, that often, because each of my cakes seems to be different and sort of custom. But if you do that over and over, go ahead and use this sheet. There's an old school chart here, which is basically what the baking calculator does for you in the old school way of just looking it up. There's a converter here. Again, you have calculators on your pages where you need them to be able to calculate from US to the metric system. So this is just old school backup stuff. You probably don't need it. The other thing that's a really cool thing you can do is, let's say that you have a cake and you want to find out if you're charging the right amount and if you're charging what you should be based on what the Cake Ninja is telling you. Okay, so let's say you charge $65 for that cake. Then you ran it through the Cake Ninja, and the Cake Ninja said, well, no, you should be charging $75 for that cake. So it's telling you, it's turning red because, wow, you're not making $10 on that cake. But let's say the Cake Ninja tells you you really only needed to charge $45 for that cake and get a good profit margin, and it turns green. It's telling you, wow, you're making a good profit, and keep doing what you're doing. So that's kind of a fun little thing to do for grins. So this is a very quick overview of everything that the Cake Ninja can do for you. I promise you, you will be so amazed at all the things it will keep track of for you. It keeps track of every order, keeps track of every ingredient, keeps track of every recipe, and will help you so quickly know exactly how much you need to make an order in terms of cake, batter, frosting, filling, everything that you need, so that, one, your profit margins are high, and you're charging a profit margin, so you're making money and you can buy a new mixer if you need it and things like that. Number 2, there's no waste, so you're saving money there. And number 3, there's no surprises that you have not enough batter or whatever it is that you're talking about. So please follow me on YouTube, Taos Cakes, TAOSCAKES, and thank you so much for your interest in this wonderful pricing spreadsheet. Toodaloo.